Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. You're watching the Daily Report right here on TV 47, the home of Untold Stories, with me, George Maringa. As I told you tonight, we place politics on the side for a moment and look at the disaster that we face as a country. And that involves water. We have seen the torrents of water that have been flashing and gushing in various parts of the country. Unexpected areas have flooded, and of course this speaks to many issues regarding water management, and that's why tonight we are demystifying floods and water management. My guest is none other than Professor Engineer Bansi Mati, Director, Water Research and Resource Center at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, GOtv. And just give you, to tell you who Professor is, she is Professor Engineer Bansi Mati is the Director, Water Research and Resources Center, WAREC, and Professor at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, GOtv, in the Soil, Water and Environmental Engineering Department as WEED. She holds a PhD degree from the Faculty of Agricultural Engineering, Food Production and Rural Land Use, that is from Cranfield University of the United Kingdom, as well as an MSc degree in Land and Water Management and a BSc degree, Bachelor of Science degree in Agricultural Engineering, both from the University of Nairobi. She is a registered consulting engineer, a fellow of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya, that is IEK, and lead expert in environmental impact assessment, that is EIA. Professor Engineer, good evening and thank you so much for joining us on the program. Prof, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Am I audible also?
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I trust you're well. It's been quite a heavy day for you, I reckon.
Yes, it has.
Brilliant. And so, I mean, at the top of it all, we've seen the situation of the flooding, the floods in the country and all that is going on. I'd like to begin by, picking your mind as an expert. When the Kenya Meteorological Department issued an alert that we were going to have floods, as an expert, as a scholar in this field, what should have gone in the minds of policymakers and those in governance in the country?
Let me start by saying that floods, just like droughts, are disasters, meaning they are things that disrupt our people's lives,
yes,
and people's livelihoods and even take away life. Yet they are not so unexpected. They are expected to happen even before people gave their alert. But the minute they gave their alert, they undone their job, because there's something we call disaster preparedness cycle. The disaster cycle there are some things we do even when there is no disaster. Then there are things we do when we have been told that disaster is coming. Then there are things we do during the disaster. And then there are things we should do, like let's say next month when the disaster ends. So since you have focused your question on when we learned about this, which I believe I can remember very well, it was sometime last year. What we should have done, or what the policymakers should have done, is preparedness for what's happening now. Preparedness is water. A flood is actually water which is lacking somewhere to go, and it goes wherever it can find an easy route to pass through. So floods happen either because you are in the wrong place where the water will find itself going to, or you are in the wrong place where the water will find a path as it is looking for where to go to. Or you are, something has happened which is sudden. So one thing we should have done is, first and foremost, prepare the way for the water. Water will need to go somewhere. It will be more than normal water, because that's what a flood is. It's more than the normal rainfall we get. It's more than the normal. So that even the scale of the disaster we have seen should have been at least half, if not completely eliminated. So prepare the way for the water, prepare the people, prepare even where it shall go, because it has to end up somewhere. And then flood waters are too much water. So they are not, I'm a conservator of water. I write a lot about water conservation, and I learn about water harvesting. But this is water that is beyond the harvesting. So we say for what can be harvested, but we must remember we need to get rid of the excess. So how and to where we get rid of this excess should have been part of the preparedness.
And what would that, preparedness involve, Professor, in terms of, creating the waterways? Because we are seeing even in unexpected areas, we did see the UN complex is flooded, residential areas. Where ideally should these, waterways be constructed, especially in a country and in a setting like our own?
For once, we have seen a disaster that has affected the urban people maybe as much as, if not more, than the rural.
Yes.
But our disaster has several fronts. Of course, we have the excessive natural rainfall beyond any that has been seen in the last, 50, 60 years. Then there is the pavements and the concrete jungle that our cities are, whereby every drop that comes must run off immediately because it cannot sink where it used to sink maybe 100 years ago when Nairobi was starting. So I think our problem is we have to revisit, and this has been said a lot of time, is we have to revisit infrastructure, think what we call as in conservation green infrastructure. Green infrastructure does not necessarily have to do away with paved canals and paved waterways, but it has to think of where we water sink. If we were to think, like every estate, for instance, every estate in Nairobi, where will the water for that estate sink into or go into? If we think at that level of a unit and prepare the ground, the waterways, and the place where the water will go or pass through as it goes elsewhere, where it is lower ground, then I think you'll be thinking. So we have to do a lot of rethinking, a lot of reorganization.
Yes. Because
I think, I'm not a doomsayer, but floods are part of weather, and floods should be expected, but they shouldn't be causing damage.
Yeah, brilliant. So then this phenomenon, of course, you've explained that it is water that is above normal, that is above normal. Do you think then that the areas that have since then been affected will remain susceptible and prone to these occurrences of above normal, disasters such as this in the future?
Of course. I think this disaster has been a sad one. I think the saddest flood I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen so much loss of life. I've never seen so much misery as this particular flood has caused. I think it has already given an indication, next time don't be here, okay? Since it has said next time don't be here, that's why I'm saying we really have to rethink macro, not short term, but long term.
Okay.
So that next time, hoping next time it will never be this bad, that a flood, and floods happen in other parts of the world, but they find those countries ready. They find people have already created space for the water, and then they have created space for themselves. So that's how I can put it.
Water is life, Prof. And, you've researched and, written a lot and extensively and widely about this. And in scenarios such as this, how do Kenyans, or how would a population, perhaps, say in Nairobi, be able to take full advantage of this and harvest water?
Let's say like this, we should take advantage of every rainstorm.
Okay.
Not necessarily the largest one like this one of 2024. So when these rains have gone and disappeared, we all need to do more water storages so that we take care of every storm, minor, big, and small. The other thing is that we as individual persons, educated and uneducated, should also learn something about how to handle flood next time. Look at the photos or the videos you have been seeing of people looking helplessly as their relatives or friends are being washed away by the water. Isn't it time we developed a way of, like the way everybody knows how to protect themselves from AIDS, from corona, we all knew how to even wear a mask and all that. So suppose we also take a national drive like that. If you see someone drowning, maybe there's something, instead of taking your phone and taking the video and sharing, maybe you could run into the house and come out with a rope or something, so that the average person has a small idea in what small way they can help in case of a flood. One example I can take of is, let's take a small flood, not a big one where the water is coming to kill people, a tiny minor one. It's something small like a bag, gunia tu ya sukari, when it's empty. And if people keep several of them, then they put soil in them, and or sand, or even soil, ordinary soil. That one maybe can also prevent the misery of water, coming through the door, through whatever. So there are smaller things we could do ourselves with our own hands, if only we had been sensitized, we had been made prepared. If someone had gone around distributing gunias, then they ask, what are these gunias for? Wewe kamchanga, put your soil in it, keep aside, you might need it. So you find that, I'm not saying gunia or the soil can, maybe some of the plants were way beyond there, but let's say we should do small things, we should do medium things, then we should ask for help to do the biggest things. That's how I put it.
So last week when we spoke to the director of Met Services, he said there could be a scenario possibility that after El Nino, which he said we are in a scenario of El Nino, could follow La Nina. And of course, this is a scenario that we've witnessed in the past. Should we...
Louder, please. Louder.
I'm saying last week when we spoke to the director of Met Services, he did say that after El Nino will come La Nina, and that is the hot and dry season, and that could be a possibility. However, he did not confirm, but he said it could be a possibility. In the wake of this increased water levels, high water levels, and Kenyans first concentrating on, saving lives and property, shall we perhaps be finding ourselves in a place of being caught off guard, that we did not harvest the water that we needed?
I think we have just come from there. 2021 to 2023, I myself was in the middle of doing research on drought resilience in the Wasonyiro Basin. And we seem like we have forgotten it the other day last year. 2023, early 2023, we were still reading in a very bad drought. So even if we don't look forward to a drought, we know it's another, like the flood is also another expected disaster. We say they are random. It may happen when we don't expect it, but one day it comes back. And of late, because of climate change, they are coming back faster and heavier and more severe. So as we are thinking about flood preparedness, and we say flood is quick onset disaster. 1 minute you are sleeping, the next you are gone. Drought, on the other side, is slow onset disaster. We see it go, we see the water pan dry, the river dry slowly. It's actually a drought we can easily handle. So both can be handled, and they have been handled in other parts of the world. But I know we also have our own DMU, Disaster Management Unit here, which is responsible for all this. But sometimes when something like this has happened and the whole country is on its knees and so on, it is good sometimes to rethink beyond the box how and who else can participate so that we avert a similar situation. And we do know there are some places in this country which get floods every year. Every year they are always being chased away by the water. So again, those are some of the things that we should ask ourselves. Going forward, what can we do as individuals? in our homes, in our farms? What can we do as communities in Nyumba Kumis? And what can we do at the city of Nairobi level, at Machakos County level, and then as a country? And I think there is a role for everyone.
What would be some of the possible solutions as a professor in this field that you would offer, especially say, looking at both sides, national and domestic use, in terms of, water storage? And at the national level, you're talking about...
Let's start with the national one.
Yes.
Immediately we are through with all this disaster, can we do a kind of mapping again? I can actually give you flood map of Kenya. I have one, and I drew it myself because I do mapping.
Yes.
But I am sure it's wrong. It's the kind of, not wrong in that it's wrong. It wasn't wrong by the time it was done.
Yes.
The affected areas are maybe twice as what we have right now. So can we remap this country again? We remap the new areas, and the new areas seem to suffer more than the traditional areas, by the way. And then the old traditional areas. Then, like I said at the very beginning, tengenezea maji jia, tengenezea maji pahali yake ya kwenda kulala. Tusipofanya hivyo, tutasunguka another time. So after we have abandoned our new areas, our new danger zones, which are some of them are in our own estates and so on, then at the community level and also at the national level, can we each say, when we have water, it shall go here, it will continue here, it will end up in this river. Because water is a very soft, one of the softest commodities, one of the most easiest to handle. Also, it is also very powerful. As you know, it is powerful enough to give electricity, so it's powerful enough to destroy. So I think that's how we should do it in the national level. And of course, we will require resources, because water flood is an engineering activity. It's not a Juakali thing to just dig a canal and go. You need to do the proper surveys. You need to design the sizes and the flows. In our line, we say return period of 1,000 years, of 10,000 years. Something that in the next 10,000 years, if it happened, my dam wouldn't overflow, my canal wouldn't break. So it is where you also, I know engineers recently were appealing to be involved with good reason. Flood management is an engineering feat.
Do you think that perhaps, before you even go to the domestic part, do you think that we are prepared to be able to, or rather we are ready to then map out and say, okay, these are the areas, despite the growing population and how the effects of climate change are happening, do you think that we have the capacity to be able to designate areas and say, this is where we would want the water to go?
Why not? We have. We have the land. We have the water is going somewhere even now, as we speak. When it floods, it's going somewhere. It's just finding where is it going. We have the ocean. We are not how do I say, we are not a country without an outlet. We have various outlets like Victoria, like Naivasha, the Indian Ocean. So in terms of physically, yes. Politically, I hope there is goodwill. I hope so. I don't know. Financially, I not the one who keeps the money, but I'm sure the funds can be found. So I think everything is a matter of goodwill and dedication, and I think it can be done.
Is there like a designated number of, say, dams and water pans that, say, a county or a region should have to be able to prepare for situations like this?
No, you can't give a number. You can't sit there and say, oh, this county should have 10, another one should have 5. There is we don't do water pans mostly to sink water. Actually, we do water pans or dams because you want to use that water to irrigate or to do hydro or to give water to towns and to our homes. So the two are related, but the two are related in that the designs going forward should be really cross-checked so that they don't end up in disaster. But we really can't say a certain county should have so many or so few water pans. Water pans are water supply feature. which we also need.
As it looks now, do you think we are handling, or this current flood situation is being handled the way it should be?
I don't know. I can't answer that one.
Okay.
I watch TV like you, so what I see is what I know. Yeah.
But what has your studies revealed, perhaps, in the according to the past, how we've dealt with and handled water in the past? Do we just let it go to the ocean, as you were talking about earlier?
Yes. Don't we waste that commodity? Don't we waste it? I agree with you. As I said from the very beginning, people who know me more for water harvesting. I'm very passionate about water harvesting. But I also said in science, there is a difference between water harvesting and flood management. Very big. Flood management is disaster management. Water harvesting is a very happy affair when the rainfall is normal. It's a very happy affair. To save that water and use it. Flood management is disaster management. We handle it a bit differently.
Brilliant indeed. Thank you so much. We are still with Professor Bansi Mati, a professor at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. We want to take a short break. When we come back, we look at the other side of her expertise in trying to look at how the population should be able to prepare in terms of agricultural management, food and crop management and preservation as well, to be able to analyze and look at how the future could look like. Of course, getting expert insight from this professor of the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Do stay with us. We're back in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee. Soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue. Mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking,
nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
To finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee. Soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue. Mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea. Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hii.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you know, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking,
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
to finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Welcome back and thank you so much for staying with the Daily Report right here on TV 47, the home of Untold Stories, with me, George Maringa. My guest tonight is still Professor Engineer Bansi Mati. She is the Director, Water Research and Resource Center, WAREC, and Professor of Soil, Water and Environmental Engineering Department at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, JKUAT. Thank you, Prof, for staying with us. Let's now look at matters food production and rural land use. When you look at the areas considered to be Kenya's food basket, what, in a nutshell, how would you describe, the rains that we've had so far? Should they portend good harvests and good tidings in the next seasons?
I think it's a mixed answer. For quite large parts of Kenya, the more the rain may be, the better. But quite a number of crops get affected. And most of them, our famous maize and beans don't like to be underwater. So unfortunately, flood kind of rainfall is not what we wanted. It's not what we want to grow crops. We just want enough for the crop to grow. Therefore, I don't have the data, but I think it's mixed. Even a lot of people may lose their crop. But some, let's take crops like tea, these things which in areas with well-drained soil like tea and coffee, I think for them they may end up with a BAMBA harvest. Avocado, where there is slope and all that, they do much better than other crops. most fruits actually.
Okay, and so in areas where Kenyans and locals are primarily farmers, how would then they be able to? Do they go buying water tanks to be able to preserve, so that they are able to use this water for irrigation? How would you advise in terms of water preservation and harvesting?
Water for irrigation is not something you do overnight. Oh, it's raining, let me rush outside and do water for irrigation. It's a plan. It starts with surveying. It starts with calculations of how much you need, where will you store it, where will the water which you use for irrigation come from. So it's a wake-up call, yes, for us to plan for more and more irrigation, especially going forward. And therefore, it's not like we can tell farmers, hey, look here, it has flooded, save this water tomorrow. I think that's not how it can be done. It is that irrigation is a plan best done with a long-term view of what we want to do.
Let's assess the positive sides of this average rainfall that ordinarily would be fair. What are some of the areas or positive sides that we can look at? Because whereas water we've seen the effects of it when it comes above normal rainfall as we are seeing right now, there are also some positives on the other side on areas that are not experiencing high water levels as other parts. What are some of the positive sides that you can look at to be able to identify and how people can harness?
So one of the positive sides for here and there will be improved groundwater storage. All this water, when it sits in sinks, in basins, in other places, it increases the overall storage in the groundwater. So people who have had wells maybe which were drying are going to have them recharge and so on. People who have had springs and rivers that were seasonal, we believe this year the rivers will flow for much longer. They say there is always a silver lining in every cloud. So even this one, you'll be surprised, maybe there are people who are seeing the good in it. Yeah.
Okay, and some of the areas or other crops that perhaps farmers can be able to assess. You've talked about tea, coffee, and avocado. What are some of the other crops and plantations that perhaps farmers can be able to take full advantage of when in seasons or in scenarios like we are in right now?
I didn't name everything. There is also rice. I know also even rice has up to a certain. It shouldn't be grown in a flooded paddy. Okay. But there are areas which maybe you wouldn't have grown rice last year, but now you can. There is also vegetables. As you know, vegetables will now grow even in very dry places, so that you can have vegetables of various types and shapes. Potatoes, for instance, also like a lot of water, but not too much. If it's too much, again, they don't end up being good food. So I'm more a water person than an agronomist, but I think trying to find out too much about the advantages is a bit difficult. But yes, there are crops which will benefit, including sugarcane also.
And so earlier on, you were talking about the national outlook of being able to harness and harvest, and store water. Domestic use, perhaps, for Kenyans watching and wondering, they have not been adversely affected by the floods as in other areas. They then, having seen how the last 2-3 months have been behaving, do they go ahead and get water tanks for themselves for future use? What would, in domestic use, perhaps, for just a Kenyan who is watching and interested to just be able to take full advantage?
A water tank is quick fix. All you need is a platform.
Yes.
Measure how much of a roof you have, how much rainfall. But then again, we shouldn't do a tank because there has been an excessive of rainfall. We would like a tank that will be not over-designed or under-designed, but which will be useful even during average rainfall. So again, like all things to do with the water, it's not a case of water. Unfortunately, it's not a case of what we call plug and play. A few things may be plug and play, but very few. Most of the time, we need thinking through the long term utility of what we are doing so that we spend the rightful amount of money and design for the rightful amount of infrastructure, even for a small structure like a water tank.
And, with water comes, the increase in perhaps diseases and, waterborne infections. To be able to ensure that we, the infections and the diseases are not recurring and they are not as much, talk to us about the treatment of this water, and just to ensure that, whereas it is in surplus, it's also not very harmful to our bodies as well.
Good old boiling, of course, which is, people find it impossible because it's very expensive.
Yes.
Boiling water is not a joke. It uses a lot of energy. And then I would have thought the first thing is everyone to have, what we normally say, everyone to have potable water from either the county government, national government, city of Nairobi, or whoever. That's our starting point. Let water be a utility seen to be given in bulk and then shared by our community. That way, then we all have assurance of clean drinking water, come rain, come shine. In the event of, because the idea is a civilized society is not the one that now that it's raining, they go to the pool outside and scoop water there for drinking. A civilized society is supposed to use that water for other things like watering crops and so on. So we are a civilized society. If we are a civilized society, and you know how civilized societies look like, they supply water to their people. So that's the route I'd like us to think about.
And we've seen, the food product, or rather the food storage zones have also, been adversely affected as well by this in terms of now crop production. As you look at now the effects of this rainfall on them, the mitigation in terms of trying to reverse, because also too much water in these storage areas will mean that the seeds and everything will be affected. Talk to us about that and how to remedy it.
It's that my line of thinking. I'll try. I'll give it a try. Right now, with all this rain, maybe granaries are leaking, maybe houses are leaking, maybe the floors are wet and damp. So people have to think beyond the usual in how they store their food. Don't put food directly on, let's say, a cemented floor, because a cemented floor is very cold. It will transmit that coldness, that cold temperature, maybe ruin your crop. So people have to think differently about how they store their food, especially in the line of grains, because of the danger of getting aflatoxin with all this dampness in our various spaces where we are living. That's how I would put it.
Okay, and then now in terms of research and what you're finding out, perhaps you were talking about the your research during 2021 to 2023 about the drought that we came from. What are the patterns would you have established, or how is the cycle? Would you be able to advise, and looking from a research point of view, in terms of the changing and adverse effects of climate change? Are we in a place that we can mitigate and say to avoid these scenarios in the future, we can approach it in this particular manner?
One thing I can tell you for sure.
Yes.
The places that suffer the most from drought in Kenya also are the very, very same ones that suffer the most from flood. I can give a few names.
Yes.
Look at most parts of Marsabit. So Marsabit in the north, middle of that wonderful county, suffers is considered the driest county in the country, but yet it's a country that suffers massive drought, flood. Look at Tana River County, a lot of parts of Kilifi, a lot of parts of Machakos and Makueni. So you find that there are a variety of reasons why these 2 or 3 things happen in the same place. Because the rain itself has this way of coming in torrential amounts, not in a few millimeters. Then the soils are the types that won't soak in enough water by their very nature. Then these areas, the majority I've mentioned, tend to have flat spaces, so the water has literally to find its way everywhere and anywhere. So if we have to tackle any of the two disasters, let's tackle them together.
Yes.
Let's tackle water will come here, we'll sit here. When it's dry, we'll use it here. When it's flooding, it will be going here, here, and here. So you find that the two are actually twins. And even you have said, this goes, the other one comes. Then the places that are affected the most are those ones. I know, of course, this time around we have had urban flooding, but urban flooding is something we can sort ourselves very easily if we so wish.
Do you think then that
it's the rural flooding of very large asal dry areas, which is a bit of a challenge? Yeah.
In looking at land use, Prof, in terms of how we just ensure that certain areas are designated for farming, is that a conversation we need to identify and say that not every? I know you talked about mapping and all that, but is it something that you think in the wake of climate change you would be able? It's a conversation that is palatable enough to be able to accept and say, okay, such and such areas should be left, say, for crop production or other areas, and then human settlement should be designated to other areas.
Let me tell you, if you search online here on your computer, you'll be surprised how many strategic plans, work plans that are very nice, that have been done for almost every county and for the whole country, sometimes for the whole country. Handling all those matters of putting crops in their rightful place, putting forests in their rightful place, livestock here, wildlife there. It's not that we are lacking documents. It is turning those documents into action. I don't want to name some because they might touch on very specific either ministries or persons. But I'm telling you, this country, we have lots of wonderful documents. Plans and strategies and frameworks and investment plans and God knows what. Question is, are we really, after we do one, we go to the next, or do we implement? So even as I was talking about the mapping, for this particular plan, is that lots of areas that were not expected to suffer so much suffered. Lots of things that people are not used to, like dams breaking, happened. So that's why I was talking about remapping what we know about our flood-prone areas and our danger spots. But going forward for the larger picture, I think we have a lot of material we could use if we wanted to.
When you look at how the scenarios are changing, Prof, from one hot season, an extreme hot season, to an extreme wet season. What is underlying when you look at even when you coin it with climate change? Are we, whereas of course none of us has lived in the future, nobody knows what lies ahead. But are we? Is there something tangible that as researchers you've been able to find out, and that to be able to say, compounded with climate change, certain ways of doing things seem not very sustainable?
I think what we need to do is to take things as the new normal. The old normal is over. Now we have the new normal. Now we have the new climate change. We have temperatures never recorded before. We have floods never recorded before. We have an even drought for 3 years never recorded before. Suppose we plan for this as the new normal, so that we don't take it as one-off that is unexpected. So I'm one of those, of course, who know for sure that I have seen, I can even produce data. That rainfall has changed. Patterns of rainfall have changed. So that climate change is not a myth. That in the 90s, we used to say in 30 years' time, by the year 20-something, this may happen. Then there were naysayers and so on. But today, I think we have evidence. In fact, we even look back and talk of climate variability. Climate variability, unlike climate change, is you look at from 1980 to today, that's 34 years. That's long enough for you to draw conclusions even without doing what we call climate modeling to look forward. So the historical data we have now, that 40 years, and we have a lot, is pointing out that the old normal is done, we have a new normal, and we change. But unfortunately, we don't seem to be adjusting fast enough to the new normal.
What to do in your assessment, Prof? Why do you think there is, sluggishness in trying to adjust to the new normal?
I wouldn't call it sluggishness. I think everyone is trying their best, but our best is not good enough.
Okay. And what would be perhaps the quote-unquote cure to be able to, because, change sometimes can be positive and, can be accepted easily?
No one resort. Let's all work at it, all of us, all 55 million of us. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a magic bullet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so the preparations now after, this whole season is done, perhaps we will be experiencing, or rather we'll be seeing, the levels going down of rainfall coming in from the skies. In areas that have traditionally not experienced such rainfall before, apart from water pans and dams, what are some of the strategies when average rainfall settles in that, can be used to be able to, because you've said you do not just sink water pans and water dams for the sake of it. How do you then ensure you take full advantage of when the rainfall is average?
There's our sector which misses a lot of people. We call it green water management.
Okay.
And when we talk of green water management, everybody says plant trees. Then you just plant trees for the sake of trees. But green water management is actually storing water in plant matter. It's our sector.
Okay.
And in necessarily doing so. By the choice of trees are not bad. I'm for trees 100%.
Okay.
Trees and plants, and sometimes also things that have a commercial value, like fruit trees, like timber trees. And the most interesting thing is that the best of these plants are what is indigenous to a place. It's not what you go see somewhere. You go from benchmarking in some country and you come and start doing what you saw over there. Go back, look what used to grow in the riverlines when I was a kid, which I no longer see. The palm trees that used to grow there, they are no longer there. The one or two that are left, let's propagate those. There are new methods and ways of propagating lost biodiversity and return our ecosystems. Of course, we need spaces to cultivate and to live and to make a livelihood. But let's have green spaces. Every county maybe to think of somewhere they call their own green space. In fact, let's say every town, because our towns are just bare like that. Only Nairobi maybe has undedicated green spaces. So that these green spaces are where we store our water. We store our water in water pans, we call that blue water. Then we store water in plant material, in grass. When you are passing by, you are seeing flowers, you are seeing grass, you are seeing reeds. All that is green water storage. That's a very soft way of storing water and saving it. Whether and when there are these plants and so on, it also soaks up some of the shock. And also remember, we are also adding to the carbon, the carbon, absorbing carbon dioxide and adding oxygen, and therefore reducing the so-called climate change.
Brilliant. In 30 seconds, Prof, perhaps you can speak to Kenyans and talk to them about, what the future looks like in your perspective, based on research, of course, what you've seen in the past. Is there hope? Are we seeing this new normal that you talk about? Is it a positive? How are the dynamics looking like?
There is a lot of hope. How can I sit here and say there is no hope? There's a lot of hope. One thing is Kenyans, for all I know, they are among the most hardworking people that I know anywhere. They are also the most innovative. They are self-driven. They survive sometimes under very harsh conditions.
Yes.
So the goodwill of our own people is there. Their innovativeness and penchant for doing something for themselves is there. So I think if we start with the people themselves, the rest is very easy to solve.
Thank you so much, Prof, for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Brilliant. That has been Professor Engineer Bansi Mati, Director, Water Research and Resource Center, and Professor, Soil, Water and Environmental Engineering Department at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. That's why we wind up the show for tonight. I am George Maringa. As always, stay safe and be kind to one another. I'll see you tomorrow.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.